Hello, this is Jared playing City Skylines. In the last episode, I created a tiny town. In this episode, it's starting off by expanding. Look at a large demand for residences, so that bringing in more residential zones there. That's going to produce more people. I'm also going to need, obviously, every time I do this, to expand the water system so that the new buildings that show up there will have access to water. All right, so good amount of money. About 2,100 or so per cycle, which is quite healthy at this point in time. Traffic's not an issue. That's no surprise early on in this game. But noticing that industry is going to be expanding, so I'm going to choose to expand down here. I've got actually two different stamps for this. One that has 4 roads and one that has 2. Anytime I'm in a situation, or in this case close to water, I'll use the 2. I'm also removing some power lines that are not needed. I actually forget about those ones. Get rid of that too. They have a cost associated with them if they have them up. Not much, but if they're not needed, you might as well get rid of them. Anytime I do that, I'm going to make sure that I've got the right zoning because that took away from the zoning. Now, the main thing I want to do right now is just up the amount of industry that can go in here because I can see a little bit of industry demand has gone on. They should be happy with water that's in this spot, so that's already taken care of. So things are looking good, but my main thing I want to concentrate on now is just unlocking additional services. And you get that by adding population. So the further the population grows, the more services that you get. I'm now expanding commercial, and every time I do that, I'm going to push back the residences. So as time goes on, you'll find the residences go further and further away, making room for a little bit more industry and commercial spaces. Eventually I'll have offices, but I'll have to unlock that in order to make that happen. Now, one of the things I like to do is unlock things early. So for instance, the garbage collection, I don't have to rely on landfills. I can actually burn garbage and actually empty the landfills that do exist. The earlier that you do that, I find the better. Looks like it might be a foggy day. That means that I'm not getting as much power from the turbines, but because I have coal power, that really doesn't matter. So expanding again in my industrial zone, or in residential zones, that is, just putting in simple roads. The traffic management doesn't need anything else at this point, so I'll keep that simple. And I've got enough money to expand 2 of those spots at the same time. And this will just create more residences and hopefully be able to unlock some additional services. One of the other things that I'm going to want to do similar to managing garbage is the death care. So I'll want a graveyard, but I'll want to create a cemetery such that the graveyard won't be needed. That's not as important as landfills. Landfills can be a huge waste of space over time. So actually a little bit more power is needed. Let's build a second coal power plant. That is not going to care about how much wind there is, so that's nice. And we're just going to continue expanding. Anytime something can be built, industrial, commercial, I'm finding space for it so we don't have a slowdown in the development of our city. Now, I may want to up the value of some of the buildings around here, so let's place a park for the residences that are further away. Again, building in some bigger roads. Before I do that, then I'm going to go to a particular park. Let's see, wrong building there. Let's go to the park. It doesn't necessarily matter which one. I tend to go for a variety, so I don't have a merry-go-round yet. So why not put that in for that section of town to enjoy? It's around this point where I notice a little bit of traffic concern, in particular with the traffic going into the city. It's not really an issue yet, but I can tell if I keep expanding, it's going to be an issue. So this is the first time I'm actually upgrading the roads for the purpose of traffic management. The other upgraded roads were about building government buildings on, so I don't have to destroy them if I want to upgrade roads in the future. All right, I want to continue expanding again. I noticed as I upgraded some of those roads, I noticed a few zones that were undeveloped, so I marked those as being residential. And I'm going to continue from the part that it has residential out again, just to make sure that I don't have to build power lines, because that's just a waste of my time. I'm getting a lot of taxes, and I don't have any healthcare in this city, so I think it's a good time to build a first clinic. It's going to up the quality of those buildings around there, as well as provide a little bit of healthcare for my residents, such they don't necessarily have to go to a different city in order to get some sort of treatment. Traffic is not bad, but I am going to start to upgrade some of the roads that go across here, particularly the industrial zones, because there'll be a lot of trucks that go into into the different roads that go to all these industrial buildings. So I don't need to go completely across, but that will just help things move a little bit smoother. And I'll just watch the traffic situation and just do some rezoning every time you upgrade the roads. You'll do that. All right, Boomtown. What does this give us access to? A bus depot and a cemetery. Both those, well, the cemetery is going to be very essential. The bus system, that's going to, I don't necessarily need it from a truck perspective, but it will up the land value for various things that have bus stations around it. So why don't I just take care. Let's start with the cemetery. That's going to be pretty important. Same thing, upgrading the roads where the cemetery is going to exist because it's a government building. I'm going to put this in the residential zones. Residential zones don't mind a cemetery. That's going to mean that anytime a citizen dies, they'll take them there. Eventually, I'll have a cremation zone instead of having to do that, but that's going to be later on. Initially, right now, we have a cemetery only at our disposal. That's just because we haven't unlocked it. And I'm doing well with money, so let's put in a high school. So we have a elementary already. This is the first time I'll have a high school in my city, so I'll get a higher level of education for my residents. So that's going to help things such as producing less garbage and being able to find better jobs than uneducated citizens. I'm going to expand the commercial zone, so every time I do that, I'm going to remove some residential, pushing those further away. So that's slowly going to make the residential zone slowly make its way further to the other end of the city, making room for commercial and industrial zones there. Doing very good with money, over 300 or 3,000 rather dollars each cycle. Let's bring in another park, which will probably only increase some of the quality of the buildings, and that will just lead to even more taxes. This is a good cycle to be able to get in, upgrading those buildings, producing more taxes, and allowing you to build even more services for your citizens. As I mentioned earlier, as I expand industry and commercial, that pushes the residences further over. So I'm going to have to continue to make more room if I want to expand. So I'm going to connect regular roads across here. And then I'm using my stamp. I'm going to be able to expand this path. So I'll have more roads for zoning residential zones. Of course, before I do that, I'm going to connect this with water, because otherwise you'll notice that those residents that appear will start to complain the fact that they don't have water and sewage. So we will make sure that situation doesn't happen. Now that we have that, we can go in and zone it. And again, I'm going to zone from the zone that exists so that they'll have power, and just expand slowly as residences go in there. Now, residential zone is actually not the highest right now. It's actually commercial is the highest. So I'm going to expand again. And as I do, I'm going to take away some residential zones. That will probably only likely increase the residential demand, and they'll relocate slowly over time to this new zone up here. All right, the other thing is, as I do this, I'm going to give them some government services. I'll start off with a simple park. How about a bouncy castle? For the residences that decide to move in this zone, they'll have access to all their bouncy castle needs in that part of the town. So let's finish things off by putting in a bus depot. So bus depot produces a little bit of noise, so you want to keep them away from residences. Down in the industrial zone, it'll be completely fine for them. Again, they're on a road that's larger, so I won't have to move it if I expand that road. Now, actually, I forgot how to create bus lines. It is not just good enough to place the bus depot. Oh, there it is. There's the bus line there. You also have to actually put the actual location where the buses go. And where I am going to select is always in between the different pedestrian ways. So that's going to allow the residences not only to be able to access this particular road if they get dropped off there, but they'll also be able to get to the pedestrian way and get to a parallel road quite easily. And the buses will concentrate on going up and down. Now, the nice thing is you notice that I've got some smiles from those buildings as I place this. This isn't just about traffic management. This also provides government services to the area, and that's going to upgrade the quality of the buildings for the residents that are around them, as well as the commercial and industry. So even if the residents don't use them, the fact that they can and they have those services around them ups the quality, which allows them to produce better buildings, more taxes, and all that type of thing. The other nice thing is because I have a very constant pattern here, it's pretty easy to place this in. It may seem a little bit tedious, but all I really need to do is to scroll up and down and look for the pedestrian ways, put a connection in there, and repeat until every road has access to a bus stop. All right, so this currently is only going to go in one direction, but I'm happy with that. The main idea, as I mentioned, isn't so much about traffic management at this point in time. It's about just giving government service, though it will have a positive effect because what it's doing is allowing the residents to choose to take a bus to the commercial industrial zones. So that is going to be it for this episode. Let's just finish off by watching a fleet of buses go out and provide service to all of them. If you want to see more of these videos, like, subscribe, and if I see some likes, I'll create some more videos of this playthrough. Till then, I will see you later.